Welcome to Tremendous Talk. We got the industry, tea, and the jokes. Actors, directors, musicians, and more. You're listening to Tremendous Talk.
Hey everyone, I'm Law.
And I'm Ash, and this is a Tremendous Talk podcast.
Each week, join us as we guide you through the realms of Hollywood and beyond as we speak to industry professionals in the spotlight.
So grab a boba tea and leave your shoes at the door. Welcome to Tremendous Talk.
Disney fans, rise up, because this week on the podcast, we have a very special guest, and we're stoked to be speaking to the filmmaker and director of The Descendants, The Rise of Red, Jennifer Phang.
Ooh, yes. Directing a major studio musical fantasy is simultaneously an unexpected and innate turn for Jennifer, who touts an impressive resume to date, from her award-winning debut film, Half-Life, to extensive lists of TV credits like The Flight Attendant and The Boys. Jennifer knows how to tell you a story, and she does it well. And it's very clear, and the movie's very good.
Yeah, the movie is unironically so good, you guys. And like, especially if you love musicals, it's like top-notch production. But, you know, Jennifer grew up in the Bay Area as a woman of Chinese, Malaysian, and Vietnamese heritage. So Asian American stories, as well as climate change awareness, are recurring themes in her work. And we are so excited to dive into this conversation with her today.
Law, what card am I thinking of?
The Queen of Hearts?
Oh, how'd you know?
I don't know. Context clues, I guess.
Well, welcome to the Tremendous Talk podcast, Jennifer Phang.
So this love. Jennifer, thank you for joining us on Tremendous Talk. Here on Tremendous Talk, we love
having me.
Yeah, we love highlighting, people who are in the entertainment industry, but specifically we love bolstering and highlighting any people of color that are finding success out here in the industry. And so we're so happy to have you on, and congratulations on The Rise of Red. That's some exciting stuff and a really great film. Ash and I were texting about it earlier about how much we loved it. So congrats on all that. It's
Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so we'll dive into the speed round really quick. I have to start off with, what's your favorite Disney villain?
Oh my gosh. My favorite Disney villain. Wow. I guess the first person who comes to mind is Ursula. I think because she's powerful and a little bit wild. It kind of really stood out when she first came to the screen. Yeah. Was that the short, fast?
No, we're here for it. We're here for it.
Oh, okay.
I love it. I love it. And then on the opposite side, who's your favorite Disney princess?
Ooh, oh my God. That one's a tough one. I gotta say, it's gonna have to be Red. Red from The Rise of Red, the Queen of Hearts' daughter. She's the best.
I love that. Okay. And then to round it out, what's your favorite boba order? And if you don't drink boba, you can do what's your favorite boba order? And if you don't drink boba, feel free to do a coffee or a little comfort drinky drink.
I drink boba almost every single day.
No
And
way.
I go downtown, I call my friend and say, it's time for boba, right? And, a good $7 drink every day. But yeah, I do what they call the panda style, which, if you don't know, is part traditional boba, part agar boba, and because black and white, because pandas are black and white, or dark and light. And I usually have it with oat milk and 0 sugar, 30% ice.
I love the specifics of this.
Oh yeah,
That's how you know you're like an actual boba connoisseur. You have your sweetness, your ice level. That's a big one. Yeah, I love it, and the toppings too, of course.
But yeah, just catching up with what Law said, I was watching this movie, and I'm also a Disney girly too, but I was just like, this is a Broadway show in a feature film. It is insane, how from the set pieces to these incredible choreographed dances and everything, everything felt so big, and I was just fully I dove into every scene. It didn't give me the option to not dive into every scene because it's so big and it just grabs you by the shoulders. How did you deal with that bigness of it all, or
Scale
handling
of a
that
musical. Yeah.
Right. I mean, that was the plan. The plan was to kind of take the beautiful legacy of the first three movies and then take it hopefully to the next level. And that was really just, with the permission of, everyone involved. Can we go there? Can we really, really go there? And, I pitched a bunch of stuff. I put together a bunch of storyboards with some fantastic Atlanta-based storyboard artists. And, we brought in Ashley Walland to do the choreography. Ashley had done, one of my favorite movies, The Greatest Showman, and I'd been blown away by his work, and so I was actually using his opening sequence in The Greatest Showman as kind of a model for what kind of what the aesthetic would be for Red's intro, with this, and it's like basically a circus in The Greatest Showman, and I was like, okay, can we pull off this thing where we have a bunch of, instead of spotlights, searchlights, searchlights looking for Red. So that was one of our early concepts. And, we brought on Declan Quinn. Declan Quinn's a DP who actually has shot a lot of Broadway musicals. He photographed the Hamilton musical. And so we had a really fantastic collaboration. And some of my favorite, people that I've worked with in the past who all just had this, who all knew how to bring with me this like really kind of high production value to the camera. And then we had this incredible team, of course. Emilio Sosa was one of our lead costume designers, and he came from Broadway. So we all knew how to go big if we wanted to. And it felt like everybody wanted to go big, so we did.
And mission accomplished. It's so funny because it's like, on the surface level, you would see a Descendants poster, and I think a lot of like adult viewers might, brush it off and be like, that's not made for me. And then you watch these movies and they're unironically fantastic. You know what I mean? Like they're really, really good. And The Rise of Red is like a great entry point because it's like, you don't really necessarily need the first three movies. And for me, I mean, there's a selfish part of me as a Filipino American to see Paolo back in action as King Charming this time, which is just so cool to see him and Brandy. But the universe is built so well. But I have to talk about the fandom. The trailer got something like 90 million views in 10 days, and the reaction I've seen on my Twitter feed, like people are posting clips, like they're in love with this series and this new edition. But what kind of like nerves maybe or reservations or hesitations did you have in taking on something so big and epic with like a built-in fandom and then jumping on board?
Yeah, very good question. Everyone was aware how passionate the fan base is and will continue to be. And, following up from, the way that the first three, and then if you include the animation, the first four Descendants kind of, culminated, we knew that we had big shoes to fill, and we also had a responsibility to the memory of Cameron. So, we knew there was a risk, but for me, I was down for the craft. I was down for the love and the possibilities of it, and of course, there's a little bit of nerves. There always is, but especially when you have a really passionate and loving fan base. I've been paying attention to see, I've been paying attention to see how everyone's, reacting. And I've been happy to report to my friends and family that a lot of people are okay with this new iteration. They understand. And I think a big part of it was one of my favorite scenes, actually, the one with Uma kind of acknowledging Cameron.
Yeah.
It was one of the most important scenes we filmed, and we knew it. And so we put a lot of time and consideration into that scene, and China's work, China's presence, her willingness to kind of be there and kind of, have this really authentic scene was something that was a blessing to the movie. And so I'm really grateful to her for that. And just generally speaking, it's been wonderful. There's just so many points of entry, to your point. There's so many points of entry to The Rise of Red, and the Paolo and the Brandy, speaks to our generation. And that's an invitation to the parents and the parents' friends and, even people without kids. And then the point of entry for Disney fans and Disney Channel fans.
Mhm.
So I think that was like, I'm so happy that people have paid attention to everything that we kind of put a lot of thought into and a lot of effort into. Yeah.
I just want to plus one the care that went into Cameron's acknowledgement of him. I thought that was a really sweet scene, and it looks like the fans, like you said, are taking to it. But I will also say that I've been humming "So This Is Love" ever since. It's so cool to see, and Paolo is such a sweet guy, so it's like I love to see him
Yes.
get another wave of success. You know what I mean? So,
Me too.
but
You know, when I saw, yeah, just to add to the Paolo Love Fest and the Brandy Love Fest. I mean, Brandy's
course.
voice just like
of course,
blew me away when she did her first recording, and I know a little bit about the process, and I was just like, thank you, Brandy, for bringing it. And then Paolo, yeah, he's just, when I first saw him and Brandy, in the first, Cinderella and the
Mhm.
in that time, I believe it was the 90s, the late 90s. I was blown away that you had this amazing Asian American Prince Charming, first of all, but he was just so like genuinely charming.
Mhm.
And I am so glad that we all realized that this was an opportunity to revisit, their pairing.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes,
You're
yes,
making lots of
absolutely.
generations happy. Yeah, exactly.
Is that did I catch that right? Paolo was wearing when he goes back in time and he's his little younger, like, Prince Charming self.
Skater boy Prince Charming.
He's wearing a barong, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So much. Oh my God, thank you for noticing. It was kind of a conspiracy in a good way between, me and some producers in the costume department. We were like, wait a minute, we could do this, we could
freaked
actually
out.
like, right? I'm so glad you noticed. One of I want to like shout out to my friend Anchen, who became a really close friend to me. She was the assistant costume designer, and we were just really into this idea that we could acknowledge their heritage, as part of being these kind of Filipino American, Filipino whatever, or Adonian princes. Wait, they're in Cinderellasburg, so Filipino Cinderellasburg princes. Yeah.
Filipinos, they're everywhere. So that makes
Yeah.
sense. That works. I think it's so cool that you get to like play with a studio budget, and it's a big project. But I'm always curious about someone who, you did plenty of TV, and you also you like indie films and stuff. But what kind of sensibilities did you maybe develop as like an independent filmmaker that you felt were like super valuable onto coming to like a big production like this? Because it's very big, like that, like Ash said, the sets are huge, like the costumes are incredible, and it's just like the scale of it is like bigger than my brain can handle right now in this point in my life. So I'm just curious about like what kind of lessons of the past bolstered your ability for this particular project.
That's a really cool question. When I think about it, when I made my first features independently, I had to be kind of in charge of everything. I had to know all the details. And sometimes when someone wasn't there to, I don't know, drive someone somewhere, I would be driving them. It really was, I filled a lot of the roles. And so while that can be really annoying to like producers in the industry because they want you to just like let them do their job, which is 100% correct, still having a mind for it at all is good, just as a backup plan. So I do have that instinct to kind of check in. Are we good? Are we good? Are we good? How are we doing with, what are we agreeing about? What color this castle is going to be. Let's see all the tests. Okay, so you show up for everything. So really, it's about being super detail oriented. I think that's what's the translatable skill, the detail oriented part of it, and then being super organized. Now that also works in television, of course, but you're less ultimately responsible in television, even though you kind of are. You kind of have to lean on the people who already have kind of laid the groundwork for television productions. And yes, there's a little bit of groundwork work laid for Descendants, but we were reinventing, we were creating a new universe, a new land. And so that was what was exciting for me. World building is kind of my thing now, with Half-Life, with Advantageous, we were creating these kind of near future realities. And so you do have to think through, what are those aesthetics? What does the architecture look like? How do we, accomplish that in visual effects? How can we accomplish that in visual effects while also staying inside of the budget? So that also, all my indies had visual effects in them, and they were kind of self-produced with me, a bunch of friends, some indie artists, and it was a hard journey, but we learned a lot along the way. And we also know how to make, less ambitious visual effects as well as very ambitious visual effects.
Yeah, I don't, Ash, I just have to +1 on that, because when my friends are getting into filmmaking and they say they want to be directors, I'm just like, cool, work every single department you can. And I love that you are a perfect example of that, of being like, yeah, I'm going to learn visual effects. I'm going to edit this stuff. I'm going to know how to do everything. And I don't know, that's just like, it's like a lot of, it's empowering to know that all those like all the big tough days and the little tough days and all the driving people around, all of that stuff accumulates to just really great experience. So it's just exciting to see, because it's I mean, your career so far is nothing to turn your nose at, you know what I mean? It's very cool, and so I can't wait to see how else you'll grow. But sorry, I just have to say that I love everything that you said.
No, yeah, you just made me think, though. I remember that my first, my thesis project in film school, I really wanted to wrap cable, and I was not allowed to wrap cable. And I was like, but I want to help you guys. I owe you so much for helping me finish my thesis film. But it was like, no, let people do their job. And but having that empathy for what a crew feels and goes through, and I have a lot of friends who are crew members, is also useful when no matter what budget level you're at.
Empathy in a leader is invaluable. So I mean, I'm sure I would love to work on one of your sets if that's how your mindset is, you know what I mean? So
absolutely, I feel like you can see it too in the film, just with the cohesion of everything. None of the elements seem like, disconnected from each other, from the music to these giant set pieces and props to like just the way that people carry themselves through the storylines and through the characters. Everything is so well woven together piece by piece. And I can see, now that you're telling us this, like I can see where you put the VFX hat on. I can see, like, where the driving experience comes in, and all these different pieces that you've accumulated in your journey in filmmaking. You're truly a filmmaker's filmmaker. And I have to thank you, from like me being a woman of color, an Asian woman of color, and like in the filmmaking world. You are just so inspiring. Like seeing you do this at like a studio level, but also seeing your background and everything, it's just, it makes my heart soar to know. Why am I gonna cry? It makes my heart soar to know that it's even a possibility to like get to, it's such a big epic film. Like it's a big epic film in a big epic studio in a big epic franchise. Like everything about it screams epicness. And I also wanted to thank you for bringing to life these like badass characters. Are you kidding me? I want to show every woman and every child and every girl I've ever come across all of these characters. They are so just badass, man. Like women of color leading the screen, everybody, like all these really, really, really wonderful storylines led by women, just highlighting raw female power. I don't know how else to say it, but what was it like just navigating women-led stories with also just such deep, raw emotion, like feelings of belonging and fear and trauma and wanting to be part of something, but also like navigating your hurt from the past? It's so deep, but also like just story. I don't know. It's so great. It's just thank you for everything you do.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing. Thank you. I feel really great. Like you've made my year, Ashley. So genuinely all my, in the storytelling part of it, in the character development part of it, I do put a lot of personal, I put a lot of love, a personal examination, my own understanding of what it means to be a woman in a world. And, generally when I'm working with, women or any, women, men, non-binary people, we always just go to what, what's real for you, what helps you as an actor, what helps you, what do you see in yourself that you see in this character, who are examples that in the world that might be useful references for a character. And, you know, because we have so many characters, it was a lot of background and a lot of conversations that were had, and then conversations we had when we brought everybody together, and, you know, playing with these ideas of, you know, how one might react when one is, I don't know, bullied or, you know, insulted or made to feel small, or maybe is overcompensating for having been made to feel small. So I don't know. I think everyone sees a little bit of, you know, Cinderella, the Queen of Hearts, Red, Chloe in themselves in some way. My favorite, you know, in a way, and it's not the most obvious, but Chloe is actually one of my favorite characters because she's so earnest and perfectionist and, you know, well-meaning. And it's just interesting, you know, it was just a really fun thing for me and Malia to navigate, you know, how goofy, how hokey is she, you know, how annoying does she get to be to Red, and how can she really, like, you know, really make Red want to just smash her. So yeah, it was a really great journey with all these actors, all these characters. Yeah, I don't know what my favorite one is of all of them, but it was a joy to be able to just kind of explore all these worlds and all the legacies of each of these characters. I mean, I can't even, like, don't get me started about Uliana. Oh my God. Dara Renee brought, like, you know, 3,000% to her character, and I knew she'd be ready. I you know, all we wanted to do was make sure that she, you know, had her costume together in time, and then we roll the camera, and she just, you know, got it. So
it's great.
Really beautiful experience with this group.
I have to say, just because you mentioned Chloe, like the scene of young Cinderella and her in the garden, I was just like stuff like that is so. It's just I love musicals in general, but then when there's something so special about seeing like characters I recognize just like in new kind of situations. So it's also refreshing. Like, even though I know who Cinderella is, even though I know who Prince Charming is, it's so nice to see just like someone else's take on this world, on this universe. And it looks like you had a lot of like leeway to play there. But I do want to know, I mean, if I can, there on like your biography, it mentions that, you know, Asian American stories obviously are important to you. Climate change is important to you. I'm just curious, as like a viewer, as like an outside person, how have you seen your projects maybe impact like the conversations of climate change, of being Asian American? Have you seen any kind of like needle movement because of the work that you've done specifically?
I mean, it's really hard to measure, but it's a really cool question. I actually like to fantasize. No, but I like to fantasize that I did have a massive impact with Advantageous. My second, well, my first feature film actually did mention. Okay, let's just back up. Oh my God. So Half-Life, Half-Life was my first feature. You know, went to Sundance, but it actually was about climate change and about a, you know, semi-functional family in a pre-apocalyptic San Francisco Bay Area where, you know, climate change had hit its tipping point. And so places like Oakland and Berkeley were all flooded and everybody had to move inland. And I didn't have all the visual effects to show everything, but that was the idea. And it was kind of joke, or the nuance of it is that in spite of there being this crazy crisis of, you know, people being completely displaced, suburbia was still suburbia, and people were just complaining about their domestic problems and being catty towards each other. So there was a little bit of just a commentary on, you know, what it means to be who we are in a weird time, and it's based off of, like, you know, my observations of my young brother, who's much younger than me, and how he watched the news at 8 years old, and how did I interpret the news for him. So unfortunately, the world actually has lived up to the promise of that movie from 2008, and we have not, you know, curtailed climate change. So I don't think that impact was measurable at all, but it was kind of there, and it was acknowledging that there was something happening. Mm-hmm. I think Advantageous was actually happening. Advantageous, which is about a mother and a daughter, and the mother lives in New York City, or a place like a futuristic New York City. And her name's Gwen, and she works for a biotech firm. And she ends up, and you can see this on Netflix, by the way, but she ends up putting her soul, her consciousness into another body in order to keep her job, because they want a younger body, they want a younger kind of face, a more international face, a less specific, a less ethnic specific face. So Gwen, the character, ends up, becoming this other person, and her daughter still has to live with this new person. Now that was, released in 2015, and in the wake of that, we've had many movements of awareness. Greater awareness of, women's issues happened through the Me Too movement. And I'd like to believe, because I know when Netflix actually released the movie worldwide in 2015, I think, maybe it was later, I don't know. But around that time, I was getting all sorts of feedback through Twitter, just of people in Finland and Germany and Australia, in Japan. I was like, go translate. I just wanted to see what they had to say. And I was hearing from around the world, these women going, this is my life, this is my story. I'm depressed, but you're saying the truth. And I felt so fulfilled from that, because, I don't know, it just felt like it was resonating, and women were going, yeah, that sucks, and that's not allowed. And I feel like that acknowledgement empowered women to speak up more. So I'd like to say that I measured some impact personally. I never, put it on the record, but here we are. I'm pretty pleased. And I was really lucky because Netflix was just going international. So I think I caught that little wave of, reaching eyeballs around the world.
That's great. That's so cool that you can have like a direct line to people all over the world too. Like, I think about that all the time. It's like you release something and you can have instant feedback. Like even with the Descendants, Rise of Red, like we're talking about people putting the clips out there. It's like, yeah, like this is a specific part of the movie that's resonating with me. And you as a director might stumble across that and be like, wow, that worked, or like things people are catching. I think that's such a beautiful thing about technology, even though sometimes that feels very like technology is very complicated and like the advancements of it. But I love that there's a good side and like growth from it too,
Yeah, it is. It's this kind of beautiful double-sided coin.
Yeah.
Where your connection and also obsession. I don't know.
Yeah.
Egoism. But no, I mean, 100%. I've been, watching people's response to Descendants, and I am super delighted when anyone like picks up on something or obsesses over a line or just a look. And when we're on set, I kind of analyze everything, because I'm literally like, here's the monitor, here's me. I'm just going, oh my God, is that great? Oh, is that terrible? Should we do another one? And oh my God, that was amazing. That was so much fun. I hope people catch that. And when you realize you weren't wrong to worry about things, or to love something, and that, you also feel that connection to other humans just because you're seeing the same thing. And I guess that's the magic of movie making and movie watching.
It is. That's it.
Oh,
That's the
my
key.
heart.
I love it. Yeah.
I was curious too, before we wrap up, a lot of there's this theme in the film of having second chances, and obviously being a person of color in the entertainment industry is a certain nuanced experience, and being a woman of color in the entertainment industry is a certain nuanced experience. Is there any time that kind of like inspired you in the making of this film where along your journey you've like gotten a second chance, or you've like, paved back the way, or like, shaking things up, that kind of deal? Like, have you experienced that?
Wow, yeah. I'm just trying to think which one. I think we went out of our way to make sure that both in the cast and the crew, we were representing diversity, whether it's American diversity or worldwide diversity. And a lot of that had to do with this notion that, it was my community. It was not just my community. It was the Black American community, and it was the Asian American community, and many other communities that made my career possible, that made, a lot of my friends and families like life good. And so in a sense, I felt this kind of deep obligation to make sure that, new voices and faces were being represented. So 100%. that was always resonating. And I, also developed this kind of, mama bear quality where I was just watching and making sure everyone was okay, and just feeling okay and supported. So yeah, it was. I mean, does that answer your question? Was that kind of where you were going with that a little
Oh,
bit?
totally.
Or
Yes, absolutely.
thanks.
Absolutely. That's great. And
Yeah.
like it feels like it too. Like you can feel when the characters are having a great time on set. Like you can see them truly having fun. Like the tears are real. The happiness is so real. And that just gives like tipping hat off to you to creating a safe set, to, shouting out people who have helped you along the way. So it's very seen and felt throughout the whole film.
Totally.
Oh my
I
gosh, thank
also
you. I'm so happy.
I have to say, like, as I'm also from the Bay originally, I'm from San Jose, grew up there most of my
Yeah.
life, and I feel like I was surrounded by such a mixed group of people. Like I had so many different ethnicities as my group around me. And so when I moved to places that are like primarily white or like not that, I was always kind of like thrown off. But I love movies like this because it's just like, wow, this is what I like. It really does feel like what I would consider the future is going to look like, like the diversity of the cast and just like the mixedness of it all. It's really beautiful to me. So as a I don't know. I don't know if like being from the Bay also like kind of like that's instilled in your brain of being like, no, this is what humanity looks like. It's like it's brown, it's white, it's all these different shades. So
Hmm.
I love that just from like a viewer's perspective.
Thanks. Yeah, same. No, that totally resonates with me. I am in the Bay often. Most of the time, if I'm not in LA, I'm usually in the Bay. And yeah, it's kind of, I mean, in some ways, it's kind of ideal. You're just seeing all the kinds of people coexisting in a peaceful way, having picnics and barbecues and laughing and saying hello. That actually does happen and happens in New York City as well. So to me, it's not the future. To me, it's now. You'll see it in Paris. You'll see it in England. You'll see it in London. But of course, it's not everywhere. It's these major metropolitan areas that kind of allow for kind of a tolerance or embracing of diversity. So yeah.
Well, everyone else is missing out because the food is bomb when it happens like that. I just gotta say.
Yep.
But at the end of our episodes, we don't want to keep you too long, but at the end of our episodes, we always love to pass the mic to our guest to talk about whatever it is that they want to talk about. If you want to promote any projects you have, or you have any advice for young creatives, the floor is yours to share whatever you feel like sharing in this moment. So here you go.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I think I can talk only generally about my future projects, but like, some of them are in the sci-fi space, some of them are in the biopic space. I'm working on a biopic about an Asian American writer, so that is interesting and cool. For advice for up and coming filmmakers or, people who are in, the early parts of their career, I think what it always comes back to is, bringing your kindness forward, your passion for your story, focus on the story. There's a lot of pressure in our work. And so how do you navigate that pressure? I think the answer is stick to the story and talk about what serves the story. The story is your boss. So remember that the story is, the one that's the story is the person that's telling you what to do.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I feel like there's so many wonderful gems that we got today in such a short amount of time. We would definitely appreciate your time and for working with our schedule. I know it's been probably crazy with all the press
Oh
stuff, but
yeah.
we greatly appreciate your time, honestly. And again, congrats. Like The Rise of Red, so good, and I love that you do sci-fi. I love that you did it even before you had like a big studio backing, because that's like a dream of mine. And I always tell Ash, it's like, it's impossible. How can you do good sci-fi with no money? But it's not impossible. And like seeing,
Well, you need your community. You need your
yeah,
community. It just keeps coming back to the community, and we have each other, thank goodness.
I love it. And yeah, and thank you for being
Yeah.
part of our community today and the tremendous Talk family. We're so lucky to have you. Thank you. Hey.
And thank you for making this badass film with badass people. I gotta say again, sorry.
Of course.
Thank you for watching.
The Tremendous Talk podcast is produced by Lawrence Sharma, Ashley Rapuano-Sanchez, Gabriela David, Joseph Garalde, and Jeremiah Abraham in collaboration with Tremendous. The Tremendous Talk podcast jingle is by Jared Sanchez and Ashley Rapuano-Sanchez, produced at Amsterdam Records.